there's a trope I always enjoy in every series. Whenever you have a character who starts out way weaker and more cowardly, and you see them, as the series goes on, gain the momentum to be more confident and gain a level of strength. And, like, I very much enjoy, I think part of that is obviously the, you know, overcoming aspects of their personality. But I think it's also really enjoyable to see a character start out essentially from scratch when it comes to their abilities and whatnot. And I know that Donny had some level of training with Hauser and stuff earlier in the series, like, you know, obviously years prior. But obviously that was just kind of training. He didn't graduate, he didn't become a holy knight. That was just something that he was able to pick up to a degree. Whereas, like, now we're actually seeing him learn about, like, his magic and show off actually having some skills in fighting, which I enjoyed. So the beginning of the chapter was just the follow-up kind of ending portion of what went down between the, you know, last chapter, Annie versus Burgie, and the point where they disarmed her and it just was down the mirage. It was just Annie countered her ability and was able to defeat her at that point. Now, this fight was way more of like a direct, just big hitting fight. We know this dude, Doranok or whatever, his like axe swings, he's just as powerful axe swings, and then he has this whole impact magic where he just makes a shockwave. He's not that dangerous in terms of the complexity of fighting him and how much you really have to think of as a, you know, as this is your opponent. He's just a big heavy hitter, like I said. There's nothing too crazy around it. So in this chapter, we do see some of, like I said, Donnie's skill with the knife, his like knife combat, and he's doing this kind of like slight parries and then getting like tiny cuts onto this dude, and he's setting up kind of like this death by 1,000 cuts situation, but the guy pretty much just flexes and is able to close a lot of his wounds just with the sheer muscle mass. And Donnie is at a loss, like he doesn't seem like he really knows what to do at this point, and they're talking about like his ability. And we have Sin just like goes about the magic that he has and like gives him an explanation, and how his magic isn't really floating, that's just something that he said, whereas we actually find that his magic is telekinesis. And to me, like, it feels like a, at least at the moment, more balanced version of Snatch. And I do like that we have like the characters obviously way lower level, whereas like when we saw Bond first, you know, showing up, he was like notifying people like it was nothing, and you know, the immortality, it just seemed like he was unbeatable, at least at that point. And it's not something that Donnie really has. It's like he's entirely beatable. He's the most beatable. It's weird because he's like, if you took Bond, took away the immortality, reset him to like his lowest level, and then gave him the somewhat similar ability, and then completely reversed his personality. I just think that's just kind of funny. But Donnie was able to pretty much just show how sometimes not even sometimes, I'd say like a majority of the situations, when you have a good enough hacks against just a big brute force meathead, you're gonna win. He pretty much just picked up Doranok or whatever his name is, like he's a rock with his telekinesis, and just chucks him, just completely throws him. And again, this is a guy who just hits hard and makes a shockwave. Nothing that he really has would be able to fight back against this, like just straight telekinesis, where it's like, I'll just put you out of my range or fling you, and that's that. Like, it's just one of those fights. This guy was like a measuring stick, I think, way more so than the other guys, because with Nastians it was more showing off his this new ability he has. And that's why the following chapter we had him like reveal the side effects to it. And then with Annie, like, Annie's was more of a display of her ability and how it can be useful in a situation when it came down to like a character with like some secret extra ability to do like some like crowd control, like throw you off your guard and get an attack on you kind of thing, just enough to distract you. Because like, granted, even if the mirages, you know, they don't do anything themselves, all it really would have to do is distract your opponent long enough to get the staff, and then she has her magic spells back. Whereas with Donnie's was way more of a, you know, just trying to get a feel of his power in general, because for him, this was a obvious upgrade. This was a clear development in his abilities and his fighting capabilities. Like, not only did we see more from a physical blade combat side, we saw more from his magic and more information on it. And one thing that I think is the most dangerous thing for him as a fighter really is going to be with telekinesis. He has the potential to disarm people like that he's fighting, and as I mentioned prior, that means that he can really screw over a lot of people within the series if he can take away whatever they're, you know, putting their magic through, whatever their magic weapon is, because that just straight diminishes their capabilities and keeps him up. He doesn't have any like crazy weapons yet. He doesn't have any like special magic weapons to amplify all his abilities and whatnot, which I actually am really hoping if we get a situation where they all do. It's kind of like how the Seven Deadly Sins got their sacred treasures, but we kind of see that in the like real time in the story. Maybe they save Leonis somehow, and Meliodas gets them sacred treasures. But Donny was just really cool, I think, in this chapter. I very much enjoyed seeing his character just have a good shine moment. He was obviously introduced as more of the comic relief, but I like when characters kind of have that position and then start to step out of it and gain their own capabilities. They can still be goofy, but from a standpoint of their capabilities, their responses to certain situations, and what they bring to the table, definitely upgrades, which is really cool. But at the end of that point of the chapter, it just seemed like everything, you know, the calm before the storm kind of moment, and that's when this dude just decides to get up, and it looks like the Dark Talismans aren't doing too well. And I didn't think that, you know, throwing the guy once would be a defeat. I think that if Donny was able to do this a couple more times, he'd be able to win, because obviously, like I said, full telekinesis, guy who only is pretty much just a melee range fighter in a shockwave burst around him. If you, like, with higher range, Donny could just make it so the guy can't reach him, and then just continuously throw him. You can just counter how he fights with how, you know, obviously telekinesis. But they're getting back up. I don't think Donny wouldn't be able to do it again. Like, he doesn't look as tired as the other characters. Right now, my question is, at this point, what are they gonna do with this main bad guy? Because the main bad guy in this situation is like, you know, pretty much saying like, he's like talking down to the Dark Talismans, and he's like, okay, this is the piece of the Coffin of Eternal Darkness, and he immediately takes that. He's already behind Percival and pulls the sword right out of his sheath. So this is going to be the big question mark thing right now. Obviously, Percival didn't have a fight. He just used a bunch of his magic. So it's not like he's damaged. It's not like he's really that taxed. I think he just needs to rest, and maybe they can give him the whole hope into magic thing and help him get some of his power back. I don't think it will win this fight for him directly, but if they can take care of, like, say that they manage to boost Percival back up to 100%, and they use their teamwork plus obviously full power Percival, because what we saw from all the Dark Talismans, except for obviously their leader guy, is nothing that was that impressive for Percival. The spear guy's range obviously was impressive, but I think if you just put him versus Percival, Percival wouldn't have that much trouble fighting him, and I don't think Percival would really have that much trouble fighting the other three members. Like, the only one obviously was the guy that withers you, but that's just a straight like hard ability counter in terms of like how it can be if it affects him. But obviously he got like a surprise jump, and I don't think if him and Percival had like a direct fight, then obviously it would have gone in that same direction, because he could have just made like the little magic Percival bubble and, you know, shielded back against it. But right now it's gonna be a weird one, because, you know, it's not like we're not in a spot in the series where there are allies that could show up and help. Like, I don't think Gauther's gonna show up. We just got away from Gauther, so it's not like Gauther showing up would be, I think, that likely of a scenario. Otherwise it'd be like, why didn't he just come if he's just gonna show up anyway right when we need him? But also, I feel like Gauther should be able to completely just run over this guy. Even though he's powerful, we don't know exactly how powerful he is in the grand scheme of things, of like the full scale. Like if you looked at a full chart of all the characters in this verse right now that we've known about, we don't know exactly where this guy is. We just know that he's more powerful than the main cast of Four Knights right now, which isn't that, like, he doesn't have to be on level with one of the commandments in order to do that. Like, he could just be, say, like, a great demon or something like that, which would be like, okay, yeah, that's fairly powerful, nothing too crazy, but still be a understandable threat level of a character for this. Whatever his magic is going to be, obviously is going to be, is definitely going to be like a really big play into this. I'm wondering if it has to do with his speed, because both things we've seen so far, at least, are on like his either stealth or speed, because he cut that one dude's head off without him even really noticing, and he got behind Percival and took the weapon out of his back without him noticing. He might just be faster than them by a lot, but I feel like if he has the strength, the speed, and he has another magic on top of that, like the main cast is going to be screwed. Otherwise, I only really see Percival's helmet. Whatever Percival's helmet does comes into play, which I don't really know if that's going to be enough to defeat this kind of character. And Sin might do something. I could see Sin doing something. This might be the time to take Sin out of his fox form, show us who Sin actually is, and have Sin beat this guy, because I can see that scenario and it make complete sense. We know that Sin is full of secrets. We know that Sin is obviously way more powerful than he's letting on to be. We know that from what was in Sisto when he destroyed but what he said, he called a bunch of the forest people, or like spirit, or like animals from the forest, to come attack the monsters. I think that was definitely just him. So he should be a high potential contender for doing something, and we know that he should be able to do something. It's just going to depend on the circumstances of like when he reveals like why he's in a fox form, you know, what exactly is his motives and where this is all going to go. If it's not, like, the main cast has to take care of those side dudes, and they have to rally up and have like a full all-in team fight against this guy. The problem is right now is that the main cast is already damaged in various ways, worn down a little bit. Not like too much, but at least to a good degree. And this guy's fresh. This guy's coming in completely fresh. We have two other members of his group hurt, but still able to move and still able to do anything. I'd say, had something come my throat. I'd say that you can definitely give Dornock or whatever, like, he's up, whereas Burgie is still on the ground. She doesn't have her staff back, so maybe she won't be in the fight, but this other dude will. But at the same time, they have to get somebody like this out, because if they have just this big meathead walking around trying to cleave while this other dude is doing stuff, and who knows what this other guy is capable of, it's just going to put him in a bad situation. So I personally think, like, there's the whole reveal of whatever Percival's helmet's supposed to do, or like whatever's going to happen with like Percival's whole hope and a magic thing, but I don't think it's going to be like that. I think the most likely scenario, given that all of the characters have had a spotlight except the main character, but the focus right now isn't on the main character, and I think that's part of the point of this art, and why there was the whole point of having Percival just high speed fly people over, like, through the forest and waste a bunch of magic and put them out of commission, because this mini arc is more about the side characters. It's more about the other members of, I guess they're not side characters, they're main cast members, but the other members of the main cast. And the only person we haven't seen now is Sin. So Sin is the only thing I think that makes sense to me, because, like, the situation, you also have to keep in mind, like, the level of strength of what the main cast is at and what they're capable of right now in their current states, and then this bad guy. And we know that Sin is powerful. We just don't know what Sin is entirely hiding, and like all the secrets behind Sin, and what Sin hasn't revealed, you know, to both the main cast and the readers. So we'll see exactly where that's gonna go. That to me is the most intriguing aspect coming up. Is like what's gonna happen with this whole confrontation, because like I said, the main cast is not in a great state right now, and one of the things that I think is very dangerous right now for them is they don't have an ally shows up to help them scenario. Oh, like somebody can show up and help them, something foreshadowed where a friend could come and come to their aid. Pretty much the only person really is Sin, who is there. So again, we'll just have to wait in the next chapter or two to see where that goes. I feel like it's gonna have to be the next chapter. Like the end of the next chapter, I think, is the most logical scenario, because if not, like if this guy gets a full chapter of free reign, then he's just gonna beat the hell out of everybody. Like you would have to have like a chapter where it just ends on like a it's just the end kind of scenario, like are they gonna lose, and then the following chapter maybe reveal who Sin is. I don't know, we'll see. Sin could be somebody that you know, somebody like Slaughter could be somebody that we don't know yet at all, and this is really the reveal of the full character, kind of like a Yoruichi thing in Bleach. But anyway, other than that, comment below, thumbs up the video, my friend link button, subscribe button, check out my other videos. But in that, I appreciate everybody's subscribe button. Thank you all for listening. Bye.